SuperSport will explain the sensational scenes when former Springbok Ashwin Willemse walked out during a live broadcast. At the time, Willemse's comments indicated a racial dispute between him and two other presenters, Mallet and Naas Botha. SuperSport will present the findings of an independent review. To unpack the story for us, Hloni Mtimkulu joins us now in studio. Hloni, thanks for coming in. So let's just take our viewers back a month ago. It was incredible to watch. In fact, I had to go back on Twitter to take a look on those scenes as they unfolded. But I mean, it unfolded live on television.
It did, but I think that it became a bigger thing on social media. So there were people watching it on TV, obviously, on SuperSport 1, and that sort of became a social media thing when someone posted it on Twitter, and it just went crazy. That Saturday night just went crazy. And then the reaction from there, and obviously we didn't know what the context was. We just knew that Ashwin Willemse had said what he said, and he had addressed the two co-hosts, Naas and Mallet, and he had made racial inferences in there. And obviously, as I said, we didn't know the context, but we just knew that this had happened, and then he walked out. And since then, there's been so much speculation around why this had happened, what drove him to this point. And at the time, it was very quiet, but there was even a report that that he had gotten the wrong end of the stick, that it wasn't, they hadn't meant for him to be called a quota, or they weren't referring to him as a quota player, even though that's what he had said.
Yeah, that was the issue that he had just before he walked out. He mentioned the issue of being referred to
as a quota
player, but then said he had worked very hard to be, and he was very good at the job he was doing.
Yeah, so that was the thing that so something happened again, so we don't know the context of it. But he said that whatever happened before, and we were trying to find out what happened, what was the link before, and none of that. From what happened in the link leading up to that, there was nothing that indicated anything. But clearly something happened there to make him say that. Yeah.
Hloni, I mean, thank goodness for social media. It's changed everything when it comes to issues like this. Yeah. We saw a lot of clips in the run-up after that incident happened, clips of what looked like tension between the three of them, suggesting that perhaps there was a history of this type of tension between the three presenters. Yeah,
so I think even when SuperSport addresses it, it will probably be a labor issue that, okay, he walked out on set while at work, but it's the fact that the social aspect of it and the fact that people who've watched rugby and who've watched rugby commentary have seen previous incidences where, especially Nick Mallet and Ashwin Willemse, there's been tension between them. A clip emerged from September 2014 after a Springbok match against Australia, where there was a correction of grammar. Nick Mallet corrected Ashwin Willemse's grammar in a heated discussion about the Springboks and the Springbok squad at the time. They were disagreeing about the quality of that Bok result, and so things like that. And they have been at each other in their analysis over a while. So, and I think that's the thing, that people who do watch rugby aren't even surprised from what I've seen on social media, from what I've seen when you go on newspaper sites, online, that sort of thing, comments that people are making. It's not really a surprise for people that this happened. I think it was just a spillover, and it happened to happen on national TV or So it wasn't really a surprise to people who know the dynamics of that relationship. So it'd be interesting then how SuperSport deals with it as purely what it was, a labor issue, or even the social aspects of it. And I think also the thing is, what happened was that then you got people on social media, on Twitter especially, going on there and telling their corporate South Africa experiences with racism and how they've been dealt with, and how what happened with Ashwin, whatever the context is, rings true to them as well, because they've had that sort of experience. But I think for SuperSport, again, they are going to have to work out what happened, why that happened. Apart from the social aspect of it, there is still the fact that we need to understand what happened. And as I said earlier, that there was a report that said, oh, he got the wrong end of it, that they weren't saying that, they weren't undermining him as, what he got and what everyone else seemed to get, that wasn't actually what happened. So I think SuperSport are in a very difficult position, I think. And I think that's why it's also taken as long as it has to sort of unfold, and why initially we were told, oh, they'll be able to work together on the Saturday, and then the day before that, then they released a statement saying, actually, we're going to hold them back until this is sorted out.
Yeah, it seemed that SuperSport was trying to make as if the issue wasn't that much of an issue. As you mentioned, with them saying, you know, they will be back in studio on that Saturday following the
following Saturday. And that obviously didn't happen, and that still hasn't happened. And the important thing, again, there's been another delay where this report was meant to come out on the last week Monday, after they had appointed this advocate Malega, and that didn't happen. So, and then the report was then supposed to come out yesterday, and we're sitting here today, it's Tuesday, and that still hasn't happened. So I think there's been a lot that has happened, and it wasn't as sort of water under the bridge as we were meant to believe. There's certainly a lot more at stake, or a lot more that is going on in that whole thing. There are more dynamics to it than just sort of, oh, it just happened and now it's over.
I think we have that clip of the walkout that happened. I'm not sure whether my program editor is able to play that for us. We had it on just a short while ago. If we are, can we just take our viewers back to that clip?
Bespreking na afloop van die Lions se oortuigende 42-24 oorwinning oor die Brumbies op
Alright, it appears it's part. It appears it is part of a package that we ran on the story. But there seems to be some playful banter between the three of them before that walkout happened.
Well, no, so at that point, what we're seeing now is at the point where he was saying that it seemed that he was okay initially, and then the walkout happened. But at that point, he was saying, look, I've been a Springbok player, and I was called a quota player while playing for the Springboks, and I had to work very hard to shake that off. So, and then it just sort of escalated, and he said, well, I can't, and then he made reference to Nick and Naas playing pre-94, and how he's played after that, and how he can't be undermined by people who've not had to play in this era now, and how then, again, we don't know what happened, what led to that, but then it just escalated, and then he just felt like, okay, I can't do this. And I mean, there was the whole thing of, was it a walkout, was he storming out, whatever, but then he just said, I am walking out, and he did walk out.
So this issue of the report meant to have come out last Monday. You said it was also meant to then come out yesterday, and now today is when SuperSport says it will be reporting back. Does this have anything to do with the fact that Ashwin Willemse, in fact, we're told, did not testify in the inquiry?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that has been happening in the aftermath of this whole thing is that there's been a lot of speculation, and one of those is that that's been coming through recently is that Ashwin didn't testify, and that the outcome of it today will go ahead without him. That may be a thing, but I think we'll have to wait for SuperSport to let us know. And I think in some ways we probably won't really know. I mean, we'll ask that question and we'll see what they have to say actually before even asking that question. But I think we possibly won't know the full-scale dynamics of it, because there's been so much that's happened. I mean, the day after, when they were all meeting, Nick Mallet walked out, and we were wondering why he had walked out. And even then, there were reports that, oh, he had walked out because they couldn't reach an agreement. But of course, they said, no, that's not true. He had to go wherever he had to go. So now this is coming out as well. There's just been so much speculation while we're waiting.
I suppose there's the issue of managing the optics of how
of the whole thing. And you're on SuperSport, and it's you know, and it's rugby, and it's the fact that then there was the social aspect of it, which it's a complicated situation. It's not just he walked out. It's the fact that it's brought on all these other things, and it's rugby as well. And if you look at where rugby is at the moment as well, and we've just had the first black captain since 1994, since post-isolation. We have the past two tests, Springbok tests against England, have been more representative than they've ever been. So it's a bit of a watershed time, not just a moment, it's just a watershed time at the moment to sort of look at all of these issues and to sort of work out how to deal with it. And I mean, the fact that initially the attempt was to just sort of say, okay, this is it, it's done. I think that's just sort of shown that actually in sport, and in rugby especially, you can't just do that. There's a lot that's happening, there's a lot at play, and you actually need to address it. So I'm very curious actually what will happen in that briefing.
So that briefing takes place at 3 o'clock this afternoon, correct? And we haven't heard from the three men at the centre of it, Ashwin Willemse, Nick Mallet and Naas Botha. We haven't heard a word from the three of them.
No, we haven't. I mean, obviously we haven't, but we hopefully... It's actually curious who will be there in that briefing, if they'll be there or if it will just be people managing the situation. I think they probably won't be there just to sort of try and contain the situation, because it will just blow up, I think, again if they are there. But at some point, we're hoping we will hear from them directly.
Well, perhaps it is time that we have these difficult conversations. Thanks very much for coming in. Hloni Mtimkulu is our reporter on this story. That briefing by SuperSport relating to the issue around Ashwin Willemse, Nick Mallet and Naas Botha set down for 3 o'clock this afternoon.